Well, see what works here. Check 1, 2. Do I remember how to do this? Check, check, check. Do I remember how to do this? Check, check, check. Okay, good. We know this works. And it's July 4th, so even if no one shows up, this is good practice for how the hell do I do this? Slate Audio plugins. Brought to you by Slate Audio. If they would sponsor me, that'd be nice. All right, let's see. I've not sat at this computer in 2 months. So kind of good to see what works here. YouTube asking me to sign in. Okay, well, let's take a look. We know Facebook works. That's kind of cool. Looks like YouTube is working. Yeah, picture and audio, great. I always have a few friends who don't want to go on Facebook, which is cool. I completely understand. Okay, Zoom, pinning. I've got all these windows open from from when I most recently sat at this computer, which was in April. Wow. Fern Brodkin, how are you? Fern Brodkin with the opening comment. How are you, my friend? I thought, I was going to skip this and start next week. Then I thought, let's just jump on, see what's up, see if anyone's there. And on the 4th, oh, the 4th, a complicated day, right? Let's see, do I have an open port to plug this in? All right. We may or may not get some cool pictures. How are you doing? Antoine Shashuk is there. How are you, my friend? Check, check, check. Hey, hey. Every DJ needs a cough button. I don't actually have a cough button, but well, it's good to see you both in digital world. Let me know if my voice is high enough. Yeah, just gonna get reacquainted with this format. Yeah, you read the updates on the road, Fern. Thank you. That was fun. It's amazing. No matter how many times you tour time is always similar. It's not always the same, and by that I mean what's similar is you go out there, and if it might be 4 weeks, 3 weeks, it might be even 2 or 3 weeks, but it might be 4, 5 weeks. This one was like 8.5 weeks, and you go out on these long ones and you go, oh man, like 2 days in, you're just like, wow, looking at the dates, and you're like, man, this is, wow, am I really just going to be away from home this long and just living out of a suitcase this long? There's this thing in the very beginning where it's staggering, to behold. And you kind of go, I'm trying to do some visuals here. Yeah, you kind of go, wow, is this really, did I really sign up? Yes, you did. You just see this long list of dates. So and that happens, and then you just kind of get in the swing of it. Maybe 3 days later, and you know, uh, the essence of touring is it's a lot of work. So pretty soon you're in this 15-hour day cycle, and you're just kind of you forget about time, and then suddenly you're like a week in, and you go, oh wow, how did all right, a week. Well, there's still 7 more weeks, but oh my God, so it's 7 times what I just went through. Oh my, oh man, that is so long. You really feel it, and then you just go back to working, and then at some point it's like halfway or something, and you go, whoa, how did that happen? And it's et cetera. And then the third thing that happens is suddenly it's like 5 days to go. You go, wait, how did this? So yeah, as Fern is saying, yeah, it's similar, but this time plus COVID, exactly. So COVID was interesting, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Knock on wood, knock on wood. This tour made it through without COVID. I mean, all around us though. I mean, there was COVID in other tours that I'm peripherally involved in. There was COVID in big tours. I have a friend who works for Justin Bieber, and before he had his what does he have? Bell's palsy. That's not Bell's palsy. Yes, for him it was. And before that, they had some COVID. It was very public. They had, I think, a couple dozen people. He's got 200 plus crew and band and all that stuff. So when there's an outbreak, but we with the Pat Metheny tour, we were lucky, and I mean, we had a pretty good level of care. I mean, you can always go crazier. And you're out. Some of us are out in the public. Some of us are out selling merchandise or out in the audience because the lighting rig and the sound rig is out there amongst strangers. Very low masking in venues in Europe. I mean, it varied. Some places we would go, the audience was peppered with masks. A lot of people with masks, and the staff, the people we deal with, the lighting crew, sound crew, the loaders, the hospitality people, the promoter people. Sometimes, a couple times, you go to a show and everyone's got a mask. I'm thinking that had to do with their local numbers or whatever, but most of it wasn't. So definitely thinking about COVID a lot and being really careful. I work directly with the main guy in the organization, in the show. I work right there near Pat, handing him guitars, talking to him. Sometimes before, as we're getting ready. So I wore a mask all the time just to be like that extra level of care, And there was a little head cold that floated around on the bus, and for me, I just got a little cough from it. Never really got sick. Some people got hit pretty hard, but the point is, we didn't have COVID, and then you come back and there's a bit of COVID floating around. So to that point of Fern bringing up COVID, yeah, it was. Let's see, going through this. Friends of yours on tour were hit. I did hear about Keneally. He was very public about it, and it was Mike Keneally we're talking about, and I think something like 200 people on that cruise got COVID, and that's probably a low number. July 4th, cracking open not a beer, but what is this? Black raspberry liqueur. So some water. I will have a beer later. Yeah, this was the cruise to the edge, and quite a few people succumbed to to the virus, after the thing. I heard there was just, barely any masks on the boat, and look, you're crammed in those conditions. It just takes one or two people. So anyway, we'll come back to all that. We won't talk about COVID all day, but jumping to the tour again, which I'll talk about a lot. So this, if I can focus, yeah, there you go. It's a little weird getting the focus on a screen, but this is a little tour book that I have on my, in software. But you look at that early on, and you just go, "Oh my God, we're here forever." Can you even read that? But yeah. So we went from the Czech Republic to Hungary to back to the Czech Republic. No, where's Bruno? Bruno's Czech Republic, right? Bruno. So we went from the Czech Republic to Austria to Hungary, back to the Czech Republic, and then like 5 days in Germany, Erfurt, Frankfurt, Karlsruhe, Dusseldorf. Then we went for a week in Italy. That was great. Padova, Ravenna, Foggia, Rome. Rome. Wow, what a show. That's pretty amazing. And we had a day off, so there was the show, but there was just that energy of being in Rome. Wow. And I got on one of those little tourist buses. Saw the Colosseum, saw all these ruins and, important cathedrals and different fountains and statues and things. The thing about Rome, if you've ever been to Rome, you know this, is you see ruins everywhere. Rome is one of those cities where they've left the ruins as they are and they build around them. So you have these modern buildings and modern uh, traffic circles built around, like, some 2,000, 3,000 year old stone artifact. Incredible. Yeah, just so Italy, we were in Italy a lot. All those cities plus Torino, Milano. So Italy was a trip, and Italy is a trip when you're touring. It's kind of crazy. It's a little challenging. From Italy, we went to Switzerland, which is a big difference in production and stuff like that. Um, no, Italy's fine. It's just some challenges, some language stuff, and then just a vibe, man. The Italians are chill. I love them. They're great. It's a great place to go when you're chilling. But when you are operating on the clock and things need to happen at 11, at 1, at 3, at 5, at 7, at 9, it's gotten way better though. I've been going to Italy on tour for over 15 years, and no, it's really oh, I'm gonna not use that single symbol. it's it's good. Oh, so then we went. So yeah, so it was Germany, Italy, Switzerland, then back to Germany, then Luxembourg, which is a city and a country. If I understand that correctly, very small place. First time I've been there. I've been almost most places in Europe, almost every place, and Luxembourg, except for the tiny ones. I haven't been to Luxembourg till now. Haven't been to Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein, how do you say that? Haven't been to Monaco. Haven't been to Greece, and haven't been to Finland. Been to Iceland, not Greenland. So some of those off-continent places. And then in the east, like I said, I haven't been to Greece, but I've been to Bulgaria, Hungary, Poland, not Ukraine, and missing one other one there. Like I can't remember if I've been to Romania. Anyway, it's cool to go to Luxembourg this time for the first time. Really great. A lot of money. Wow, that's basically one fucking big bank. Then we went back to Germany. Then it was Paris, one day in France. We actually had another one later. Brussels, Belgium. We really jumped around. Then back to Germany for 4 or 5 nights. Stuttgart, Dortmund, Leipzig, Hamburg. Then Antwerp, Belgium again, next door. Next door again to that for the Netherlands. And then back to Germany for Bremen. Then it was 5 or 6 nights in Poland. 6 nights. Bydgoszcz, Sopot, Warsaw, Wrocław. I can't remember how to say that right. Lublin and Bielsko-Biała. Then back to Austria, and then really a great little interlude in the tour. Let's see if I can show some of that. Again, it's not focused real well, but really cool was Friday, June 10th, 11th, and 12th in London. That was really cool. Because one of the things on tour is you're very strict about the word day off. A day off is very clearly defined. It means you woke up in a hotel and you're off the whole day and you go to sleep in that hotel and not don't have to leave till you know sometime that next morning. That's a day off. Those of you who tour know what I'm talking about because you have some tour managers and some agents and some booking people and some management people. Not this organization. This organization is great and really understands what the word actually means. But I've worked with artists where they call it a day off, and you're driving 9 hours from Council Bluffs, Iowa, to wherever the fuck 9 hours from that would be. Or you're going to Arizona on 2 days off from Chicago, and they're like, "Oh, you're off." No, you're in a bus, like just burning out and watching movies. But anyway, great to have an actual real day off in London of all places. So that was cool. And I'm gonna get to some food here because we're here to talk about food in the midst of all this. But just giving some background, London was great to actually have a full day off there and be a tourist, jump on a tourist bus. Really great. Had some great meals. Had some Cuban food actually, of all things. I say that of all things, of course. International city. Then we went back to France, south of France, Bordeaux area, Senon, and then we closed out with about a week in Spain. Zaragoza, Vigo, Madrid, Sevilla, Barcelona, and Valencia. So that was great. And then hung around in Spain for a little bit, which I'll talk about that. So that's kind of the background, the overview, and then we'll look at some cool pictures and stuff. Let's see if there's any comments on Facebook. I mean, YouTube, because I there we go. You're hearing my voice. I always miss my YouTube folks. Okay, good. No one there. Let's come back to Facebook. Oh, there is Lauren Brown Ellsworth. So glad. No, that's fine. In fact, I kind of thought about it. I said, well, we'll have special guests if they were here, but maybe on my next stream. And hi, Robin. Hi, Fern. Hiya, Fern. Hey, Robin. We have a local guest, very local guest, Robin Gelberg. Let's see. I got some other comments in here. Man, I can never. Just getting used to all the technology. Okay, so um the delay is weird. All right, so let's talk about some food, and I actually made a little album of food on the road. So let's see what that looks like. The overall thing was food was great, and been touring in Europe for 20 years. And here's a quick little collection snapshot of some stuff. And I've got all these menus, all kinds of stuff to share. But country by country. But I'd say overall, Europe's never been a headache for me to have food. Very simple and very let's see. From the first time I went there in 2002, ironically in like a pretty remote German town in East Germany. Yet it was great, really easy. Maybe because it was so rural and so countrified, they ate a lot of vegetables. So they had all this stuff, and they had all the classic things that Germany is cliche known for, like bratwurst and um, what's the other thing? Oh, it's not. It'll come back to me. But all the sausages and stuff like that, they had all that. But Germans eat a lot of vegetables. Actually do. They eat a lot of mushrooms and leeks and kind of beets and root vegetables. A lot of different types of potato dishes, and so it was incredible. It was very simple and easy to. Let me try to pull these pictures up. Yeah, it was actually pretty easy to just go to the catering, and they had everything that we would want. Plus, it was a festival. It was a Zappa festival, Zappanale, and so there was quite a few people that were looking for plant-based foods. So it was really simple. Yeah, really simple. So that was cool. Let's see, where are my? I'm kind of doing three things at once here. Um, doing these pictures at the same time. So yeah, it was pretty easy. The first time I was surprised. I didn't know what to expect. And so I say that just to set it up that here 20 years later, and coming here or coming there year after year, um, kind of incredible how the evolution has really moved along. All right, let's see. Um, just trying to get my pictures here. Yeah, they really the animal rights movement, I think, is part of it too. That they have a really strong animal animal welfare and animal rights, so that even the animals that they kill for food, there's a real a strong sense of um, proper animal husbandry, I guess is the term. So a lot of anti-cruelty laws, a lot of laws about the size of pens and all this stuff. I mean, we can go on and on about that particularly, but Europe in general is a bit ahead on the sort of notion of like, okay, if we're going to slaughter these animals, can they have some dignity? So, of course, they have factory farms as we would understand them, but the laws and rules are a lot stricter, and this is stuff that pretty easy to go look up, and it varies a bit country by country. The more progressive countries are like England, the Netherlands, and Germany. So, hand in hand with that is a real support for organic food of all types, and of a support for plant-based food of all types. So that was, that was just really great to see that it's grown in leaps and bounds. And I see that every single year. So we've talked about this a bit. Um, so all right, let me pull up. I'm just gonna jump through my little folder um of foods and stuff. Let's see, May 22nd. Of course, I got to sift through the dates. Okay. Um, I'm just gonna kind of sift through and show some random pictures. Yeah. So let's see. We loaded all these. Okay, we'll start there. I'm figuring out the technology. Um, hit me with any questions if you have, and hit me with what you're doing for the fourth. What's your what are you having? What kind of plant-based situation are you getting into? And if you're doing, ribs and all kinds of animal stuff, you can. I don't need to really know about it. It's Monday. We just kind of skip around that stuff. We're giving people an alternative. Dave Miller, what's up, my friend? Thank you. The overall thing was, thanks for the welcome back home. Good to see you, bro. Joachim, what's up, my friend? You were there. Um, so before I show some more pictures, well, Fern, I'll come back to your question about the war. And my quick answer is no. We had almost no. You almost could not even think that there was a war. It was kind of surreal. I mean, we were in the closest we were was in Lublin in Poland, eastern Poland. We were, I think, 80 kilometers from the border, and it was what you. The reason you could tell was because there were posters or flags or things about raising money and doing fundraisers for the refugees. So you had this feeling of support, and a couple of the venues that we played, there would be an upcoming concert, um, um, saying, concert for the refugees next Wednesday, and you saw the flag and stuff, so you would pick that out. But there was no sense of like foreboding of like, oh man, we're just 20 minutes away from missiles landing on our heads. And we had discussions with a lot of people, so it's very interesting. That wasn't part of the vibe. So, all right, well, let's look at some food and let's get hungry here. Let me see if I can make this work. Okay, I think that works. So let's go through a few meals here. Let's see. That's a guitar. That's not. What do we have here? Oh, okay, just some editing. We're gonna go random here. This was a Cuban meal I had in London with a colleague of mine, one of the guys in the crew, Ben Travers. It wasn't a completely vegetarian place, but Cuban place with a lot of veg options. That's one of the things I'll say first. When you go to London, if you're looking for plant-based food, wow, I I have not yet been to a place in London where there's not four or five, half a dozen options. London is incredible and maybe the greatest plant-based support city. I mean, in terms of being able to go and have all these different cuisines and English food too, English roasts and pasties and English style sandwiches and things, English soups and breads and kind of sweets and desserts, all very rich plant-based culture there. One of the things, and maybe we'll do a special on this at some point with some English folks weighing in, is that around 1991 when they had Mad Cow, um, England responded, if you remember, intensely, and they slaughtered entire herds of cattle. Very sad. Of course, it was horrible to see this all in the news because they were doing it in a very rushed fashion. They were going to slaughter them anyway, but they did it all at once to cull these herds and get rid of this dangerous spreading wasting disease, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, mad cow. Wow, we could do show after show on that because that is an issue, this prion-based issue that still exists. We have it here, especially with deer and some other animals, but in the Midwestern, northwest Midwestern states, like Middle America states like Wisconsin, Michigan, uh, um, way upstate Illinois, Minnesota, they have this horrific issue with deer and this very similar disease. So anyway, the Brits really leaned in hard to wipe that out, and so you didn't have beef in England for quite a long time. I think close to a year. This is all documented. Lots of articles about this. If you care to go down that rabbit hole. And what happened was the English people, looking for food, looking for proteins, looking for different things, started trying all of these plant-based options. So companies like Quorn and Amy's Organic kind of burgers and things, and several other English and Dutch and German companies that sold all this plant-based stuff exploded and became incredibly popular and successful. But then what happened as British beef came back and it was much healthier, much cleaner, much stricter regulations, much more expensive, as it came back, you had all these English people who had just eaten meatless for 6 months or for 8 months or whatever it would have been for them, and saying, you know what, that was cool. I made all similar things because I was using this soy mince, as they would call it, ground beef to make my mince pies, or I was using this to make burgers, and or just learning more about vegetarian foods, like what we're looking at right here. And the English people transformed into learning all these different new recipes and kept them going. A lot of people kept with those foods. So England's an interesting story because the big chains like Marks and Spencer and Tesco and Asda have incredible amounts of plant-based food that's available. So that's just a little background on England that I would say is one of the more plant-based, veg-friendly, vegan-friendly places on earth. Anyway, real quick there, to complete this picture, a delicious stew. That's like a feijoada, which is kind of a Portuguese, Brazilian thing, but this is the Cuban version. Just a nice vegetable stew with beans, and you can see peppers and root vegetables and stuff. Some platanos, some plantains, fried on the side there with some Cuban rice and some cilantro, which they call coriander there. Then they had this kind of fusion food thing that's kind of a Cuban take on like a falafel with a little hot sauce. On Ben's plate, he eats seafood, so he had some shrimp there and some other good stuff. So yeah, good place. Cuban food in London. Okay, next picture. Let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to take a bunch of pictures of menus. Did this a lot just to kind of show this is a bar, just a regular bar, and this is bar food, like finger food in a bar. But I just want to emphasize that wherever you go in England, like you really do not have to sit there as the vegan or vegetarian or somebody just taking a break from meat, which is the idea of my show. It's fine if you have animal protein, that's part of what you choose. But I'm trying to encourage people to take a day off, to take a couple of days off if they can, to really realize that you don't need it 2, 3, 4 times a day. Well, you don't need it at all. I'm here 37, going into 38 years of not eating flesh, not eating animals, not eating fish, not eating any, as Paul McCartney says, anything with a face or a beating heart. So you don't need it at all. And I'm here as living testimony to that. I think you all know I do okay on energy and being able to do stuff. But my big thing I need to get back to is exercise and working out and biking more and playing some tennis. That's super important, of course, physical activity. But you don't need anything from an animal. But if you are going to have it, and those of you who've been on this show many times know my message, if you are going to consume animal excipients and ingredients and parts, try to get the best quality you can. You really should do that for yourself. It's a nightmare what they're putting in the cheaper types of animal foods. Number one. And number two, for the environment, try to not support these factory farms, these horrific, giant, kind of mechanized situations. Anyway, so that's just a little bit the reminder on what my message is here, to just kind of say, hey, it's easier than you think. So case in point, I didn't get the name of the bar on this picture, but it's obviously a couple vegan things there, and they mark it clearly what it is, a little V. So you can have a beer or two and have some snacks there. Same place, I think, or nearby. Now, Sunday roast. Does anyone know what that is? Sunday roast is an English tradition, and it is what it sounds like. Every Sunday, for dinner time, like kind of early dinner, kind of like 3, 4, 5, 6 in that range. You're having some drinks. You're at a pub somewhere, and if you don't pop off to mum's to have the roast, that's traditionally you go home to your mum's and she's made a Sunday roast, and everyone's there, and it's a nice family thing on a Sunday, and it's a big spread. Usually a roast of beef of some sort. Sometimes it's duck or some other animal, chicken, maybe Cornish hens. Sometimes people do. So it's a roast, usually with a flesh, um, kind of a featured thing. But then all kinds of vegetables around it, as you can see from this list. Roasted carrots, usually there's potatoes, um, and it's there's a lot of variety actually. If you read about roast, there's a lot of different things that people like and different favorite vegetables, and might be asparagus, might be some kind of a leek pie because that's in season. But you have this big roast, and then everyone's there, and it's kind of a family thing. The pubs have roasts because a lot of people either don't have a mom, or she's far away, or she's a real pain in the ass, and you don't want to go back to um, to Birmingham to be with her. Who knows? So pubs very popular, especially in the big cities in London. You go to most pubs, there's a Sunday roast, and here you can see that evolution. Decades ago, it would have just been beef with potatoes and carrots and some leek pasty, maybe would be the vegetable things. But nowadays, look at those choices. This is a bar, and you've got a chicken roast, a beef roast, a beef with a half chicken, but also completely vegan one, the nut roast Wellington. Look at that on the bottom, right? I'm sure you're already looking at it. But very cool, and very cool to look at that. They list the calories too, which is interesting. And coincidentally, the vegan one is the lowest calorie, which doesn't have to be. I mean, right? It could have been some other rich stuff, but that looks delicious. And I have had a Sunday roast in London in a pub years ago. Really great, just a great vibe. You're just having some pints, and there's just delicious food. And pubs in England are a whole other thing, man. When you find a good pub and the old wooden seats and the old vibe to it, and if you're lucky, the beer's cold. Good stuff. So here's Quorn. I mentioned them before. Big company, and they recently do vegan stuff. Quorn is kind of this company that bases a lot of their stuff on a mushroom protein, a mushroom fiber. So they did these kind of chicken style nuggets and burgers and different cutlets, all made with this mushroom fibers, mushroom protein, and we're gonna see lots more of mushroom usage. I don't know if you saw this, but Bill Gates has invested heavily in some plant-based companies. Ooh, it's a conspiracy. He's trying to make you give up your hamburger and get a vaccine. But Bill Gates, and a lot of other investors are looking at mushrooms because mushrooms are incredibly fast growing, and the fact that you can grow them literally in caves means that you've got almost an infinite, real estate. You're not competing with land-based agriculture. So in Pennsylvania, I forget the Kennett Square, Pennsylvania area. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pennsylvania residents, but that's a big mushroom area. So there's all these caves, and a lot of mushrooms that we get in large parts of the U.S. are from that area of Pennsylvania. So this company kind of bases a lot of their stuff on mushroom fibers, mushroom protein, as well as soy and wheat gluten and all these things. And here you could see just some brand of their plant alternative version to ham. I want to do a show just on this whole area, folks, where there is an increasing amount, an exploding amount of vegan ham, quote unquote, and you put quotes around that. Vegan sausages, vegan cutlets, and things like that. Vegan uh, you know, ground meat, or whatever terms people use. And I know a lot of people flip out about that. It's interesting. A lot of carnivores, a lot of meat eaters get really, really bent out of shape at this idea. And you hear the same question: why would you want to eat that if you're vegan? I, and I'm saying that I'm making fun of it because I've heard it for 37 years. It's so depressing to hear it again and again. Because here's a couple things: it's not all vegans that are in that market. A lot of people who eat meat actually purchase these things because their doctor said to cut back cholesterol, or they need to cut back saturated fat, or they don't want to give their kids steroids and hormones and antibiotics and vaccines, actually. So you can get that texture, that flavor, that mouthfeel, that umami, and that nutrition, that protein, that iron, that spectrum of vitamins and things, because these are things made of very good foods, mushrooms, um, whole wheat, rice, peas, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, um, soy, soybeans, and so um, that's something I want people to think about. Is that a lot of people who are meat eaters, who are chosen carnivores, actually buy these products. How do I know that? 15 years in the natural foods retail industry, and I that was news to me. I was like, oh wow, I thought you ate chicken and beef. Yeah, I do, but I like to cut back, and these are really good, and people had their favorites. Now, let me say, this whole range of stuff, some of it's really horrible. And that's true about all kinds of food, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a meat or some kind of flesh food that you may like, someone listening, and it's terrible, right? Some people hate McDonald's. So um, there's good and bad, but these things have gotten incredibly realistic and so authentic. They're not my favorite things because it's scary. It's like, wow, this is exactly like when I remember ham or ground beef or something. So these things for me, I try them out. I like to see where they're at on the kind of flavor and texture and all that. I love that they exist for all the people that I just mentioned that want to try them, and for vegans and for teenagers and stuff who don't want to eat meat anymore, but they don't know how to cook, so they need to slap together a sandwich. So I like to try these, and on the road, because these show up at catering sometimes and backstage. Yeah, I'll have some of these kind of things once in a while, but it's not my immediate go-to. Okay, moving on. I was obviously in a store. I was in a Tesco in London and just getting some snacks, getting some salad and hummus and nuts and stuff. And I noticed, wow, look at this little section. So this, I should have taken a picture of this store, folks. This is just a little shop in London, in Kensington area. Anyone who's been to England knows Tesco. It's kind of like a 7-Eleven meets a Quick Check or something, like a little, but a little bit more of a supermarket, tiny little supermarket, convenience store, kind of like a Lawson if you've been around Tokyo and Japan. But just a little store, a lot of healthy stuff. And I just thought, wow, they have a whole section here on Meatless. So let me take some pictures. So here they have some sausages. The Brits love their sausages. I've had many a meat-free sausage in English hotels. Always in the breakfast, you have a choice veg sausages, and they usually bring them out special. So you have a few things here, and then you can see some Beyond Burger patties there. And again, this is just a convenience store in London somewhere. They had this stuff. I never tried this, but it's called This Isn't Bacon. Look at that. Okay, so that's a couple little things, and that finishes that little bank of pictures. I'll pull up some other ones. Questions, thoughts, comments. Tell me what you're thinking. What are you having for the 4th? Ann Everett, you're staying home away from COVID and having tomato pie. Look at that. Awesome. Yeah, we grilled some tomatoes yesterday. I'm going to talk about some grilling, but the grill of my dreams. Happy 4th to you too. Yeah, complicated, right? I'm not going to go too far down the political rabbit hole. Todd Reynolds, thank you. Thanks for the welcome back. Good to be in touch. Good to have been in touch. We have been in touch today. Fern Brodkin is confirming Kennett Square is the mushroom capital. Thank you. I knew I was, well, I am tripping, but I good to know I do remember that. No, well, I remember on the packages, we would get these deliveries of mushrooms, natural foods retail days, and we would go, wait a minute, is this really in what? Cannon Square. All right, so let's see some foods I got here. Okay, great, great. So let's pull these over into. This is cool. I'm using. Does anyone know Acorn? I love Acorn, and I'd like Acorn to sponsor this show. Acorn is my photo editing suite. It's kind of like a Photoshop at $30. Really, really great, and I use that a lot. And I've found that it's yeah, it's really excellent. Um, okay, so let's take a look here and look at some more pictures. Yeah, what's anyone having on your plant-based menu today? If you're doing anything like that. Okay, back to some photos here. Um, I don't even know what this is. That's the fun of this, folks. A lot of these things I haven't seen since since I took the damn picture. So what do we have? I don't know. Oh, this is Indian food. Okay. Right. Okay, this is London. I'll say. Okay. Wow. So London, folks. Weigh in the topic in the comments. Have you been to London? Talk to me about London, and if you've had, um, and if you're not a plant-based person or vegetarian or vegan or pescatarian or whatever overlapping Venn diagram, macrobiotics, you name it. If that's not your world, but if you like Indian food, Thai food, different food from around the world, spicy food, Pakistani food, let me know if you've had that in London because I argue they have some of the best, man. You know, well, part of it's the upside and downsides of colonialism. These folks colonized the world, and you know I do not pull punches. These English MFers, I have to keep my language clean because I might have 3-year-olds who accidentally hear my voice here. But the um the English, wow, how brutal. They went around the world cutting throats, raping, murdering, pillaging, burning, stealing, lying, breaking treaties, lying again. And you know, I'll touch base on that because it's the fourth. One of the interesting things about the English, and I'm not saying every English person. Of course, there's English people who you know still whitewash that story. Hard to find though, really hard. You just don't hear English people going, I wasn't there. Just imagine that lame crap that you hear a lot in the USA. Imagine it in a British accent because I've never heard it, and I have lots of English friends and acquaintances. I wasn't alive. That wasn't me. I didn't own slaves. What are you talking about? We gotta get rid of this critical race theory in schools. It's rubbish. I wasn't alive. Don't blame me. I've never heard that. I'm sure someone says it, but it's not like this super popular narrative, which you do get here when you bring up the bad side of American imperialism. So my point there, though, with the Brits, we can go all day on colonialism and the negative, evil nightmare that they unleashed on just about every continent. But one thing they did do in the previous century is kicking and screaming. Some English people, but many of them were open to it, and sometimes it was for reasons of getting a cheap labor pool. So they brought the Jamaicans and Pakistanis and Indians and Nigerians. They brought in the Trinidadians and Guyanese and um, people from China and people from Eastern Europe, which was not colonized, but that's a big immigrant input to England, the Poles, especially in the past 30, 40 years. And so what they also brought in is all these wonderful foods, which the English really, really embrace, especially Indian food. So Indian food, to bring it full circle, you get some of the best Indian food anywhere in England. I've not been to India yet, but I have relatives who've been. My sister's been there. My dad used to live there. I have friends who've been to both England and India, and just about across the board, everyone attests that. Oh yeah. You get the most incredible Indian food, top notch in London if you know where to look. So this was the place we found. I was walking around and texted my colleagues, and we actually had a great dinner, like 3 or 4 of us. But whatever this was, this looks like it was some kind of curry, eggplant thing on some papadum, and I have a pint behind me there, a little Guinness, um, Irish actually, but really good. Anyway, tying in history, food, British imperialism, and July 4th. That's what I do. All right, let's move on. That was that same dish, just kind of, in repose. Some sort of delicious rice, like a pilaf kind of a thing. Man, this was a good dish. I remember I asked this guy too. I said, "Can you just hit me hard? What's your spiciest?" He said, "Oh, we can go to 10." And he raised his eyebrow. You really want to go 10? I said, "Hit me." And I did it with a little trepidation because I will tell you right now, I was born in a tropical country that is just slightly more than half Indian people. I think it's like 51% Indians where I was born in Guyana at the time, British Guyana, a colony and a country that had African slaves until the end of slavery in the 1800s, and then had indentured servants. They call them indentured workers. Boatloads of Indians that were brought straight from India and promised a new and better life in South America. So the country I lived in for 5 years, I was born there, but mostly grew up as a kid in Chicago, and then went back there for 5 years. Rest of my life in the States. But I grew up around amazing Indian food and culture, and they had a holiday. What was it called? Pagwa, where you're out in the street and kids are throwing red dye at each other, and you stain your face and your clothes and everything. So I grew up with Indian music and Hindu names and Hindu flags all around, Indian food, some Indian blood. I have Indian people in my family on my mother's side for sure, and I don't know, maybe on my dad's side, but it's a culture that's part of my blood, and so it was spicy food. So I'm here to tell you, I had the hottest curry in my life in England a couple of years ago. It wasn't London, but so this guy said, "All right, I'll bring you the 10," but and then it was great. It was delicious. Look how fresh that is, huh? Eggplant and coriander slash cilantro, tomato paste, some nice chilies in there. Really good. Uh this okay, so let's jump. We're going random here, folks. I'm just showing all kinds of random pictures, but let me just clear up um this cache a little bit. That's one of my promo things I was working on. Let's just I'm just gonna make some space here. My Andy Summers clone Telecaster. Man, I love that guitar. Doing some work on that. Love it. Gonna install the Andy Summers custom. He had a boost built into it, which is the extra knob there. But okay, we're not gonna go down guitar rabbit hole right now. Okay, just gonna close some of these so we have room and so I can know what the hell we've seen already. Okay. Oh, somehow the screen sharing, I just turned it off by accident. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we saw this one. So this is interesting. Let's start on, some of the fun stories. So this was in Spain. And let me jump back to see if I got any questions from y'all before I come back and talk about Spain a little bit. YouTube, anyone there? No. Okay, cool. It's this is a crazy and silly day to do Meatless Monday, but thank you all for stopping by. Those of you who have stopped by. Richard Dean Wilson, what's up, my friend? I went to text you the other day to see if you saw any clips from the Yes tour, because I know I laugh because I know what your reaction is going to be. But yeah, of course, in all solemnity, nothing but love and condolences to Alan White's family. And I had a real couple sad days hearing that news on tour. Alan White was a beautiful guy and a beautiful friend to me, and he was one of my bosses, but also we became friends. I started first time I toured with Yes was 2011, and toured with them most of the past 11 years. Minus 2 years for the pandemic, but about 7 or 8 other years in between. I was off, I think in 2012 through 14 doing other stuff. But Alan White was near and dear, an amazing human being. So they did their first tour without him. But Richard Dean Wilson, just seeing if you had seen any of that, because I don't know. They're my guys. But the first show of the first night, they opened with a song that was a song that was new to the book. And I'm gonna be a little critical and say you don't open with something that's not like really, 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 really just you could play it in your sleep. So they stuck their necks out, and it's an interesting clip. I'd love your thoughts, Richard Dean Wilson. I think it's "Silent Wings of Freedom," which I know, you know. Anyway, so hats off to Alan White there. Um, Thank you, Christopher Lowry. Cool. So okay, cool. Let's talk about Spain then. So Spain, and I'm going to jump over to my pictures again. Spain is interesting, man. And let me pull this up. How do I oh yeah, I got to share the photo. Oh, before we share, just to detour to some humor here. This was pretty funny. Um Someone took the famous slapping photo and photoshopped in a bass and a sax. Oh man, that is brilliant. Actually, that's really good. If I do say so, that's really good. All right. Um, so here we have it. So Spain, folks. Wow. I You might have heard me say this. I've worked on 5 continents so far. I hope to work on a couple more, especially Antarctica, especially Africa. Been around the world. Still got a lot of places to stop, but I think I've got a pretty good database on eating plant based, eating. I've been a vegetarian on the road, meaning I for a brief period eating eggs. I've done that, and um, I've either been vegan or vegetarian, mostly vegan on the road. I've been raw on the road, which means eating absolutely uncooked food. Did that for almost 2 years, 2000, around late 1999 into 2001 or so. Incredible, and actually, quite manageable and incredible. And you just learn a whole other. So, I've got these different data sets in my head that I just feel like I'm in that period of my life to help others, point them to information, help people try things out, help people discover stuff. But I say that to only set it up and say I've got I think a decent database. I don't know. I've eaten completely vegetarian in Uruguay, Paraguay, Germany, Italy, Spain, France, Netherlands, UK, Australia, Japan, Israel, Hungary, all around, all these amazing places, Lithuania, Norway, Iceland, eating vegan in Iceland, no problem. No problem at all. We went to a couple vegan restaurant and health food store and other restaurants that had vegan food. No problem. Wow, all up and down Germany, which again, we have this cliche that all they eat is meat and flesh. They don't. They don't. That's a silly, mostly American cliche. Other countries probably mistakenly think that about Germans, but especially Americans, because we barely travel on the numbers. Yeah, been everywhere, and uh, eating vegan in Trinidad, in Belize, Mexico, Jamaica, Guyana, Venezuela, Peru. But Spain, wow, wow. Spain is an obstacle course, man. They're crazy. They put ham in everything. That's the first thing. So I'll start there. The Spain is a challenge if you are a meat eater. If you're somebody who eats flesh but you don't like ham, Wow, good luck in Spain. They put it in uh, uh, almost, everywhere you look, in eggs or in baked goods. You'll find it in salads sometimes. You find it in soups and stews and just jamon, jamon, jamon. It's kind of like their national dead animal. It's in everything. They use the fat in a lot of stuff. So if you don't eat pork, if you're Muslim or Jewish or Catholic and that's having a day without meat, for all of us, Spain is the one, man. They just put in everything. I have so many stories. So this is one story. I ordered specifically the grilled vegetables, and they said up and down, "Oh no, no, it's just going to be grilled and just vegetables." Yes, vegan, right? Yes, yes, just oil and grilling. I asked over and over, and sure enough, you look at what's in the bottom right there. It showed up with a shrimp in there, with a prawn. Now to them, that's like throwing a piece of lemon, like a lemon wedge. I think that's the best I could say to understand Spain if you've not been to Spain. And I love Spain. It's great in so many ways. But to them, that's a lemon wedge. You just threw that in there and like what? So they have this thing with seafood also where it's just a spice. Here's the thing you got to consider. This is on the menu as grilled vegetables. That's what it says. And the funny part about Spain is if they had said grilled vegetables with shrimp, it could have been €5 more, right? you know, if they just put like two more shrimp and double the price or add on another €5 or €7 and they'd get it. That's what's so funny about them is that they're not even seeing it as something like that. It's just flavor and spicing. So this is funny. I gave it away. Someone else ate it, and I asked them to bring another one. And oh, so sorry. Yes, we'll make sure. Yeah, the guy. Oh no, no, you'll get it. Another one came. Same thing. Beautiful vegetables, by the way, right? And nope, another shrimp was in there. So that's kind of one of my Spain stories. I've got a couple, but that's how they roll. All right, so just so I can keep the housekeeping straight here, get rid of these these other pictures. Okay, great. Back to comments, questions, suggestions, analysis. Bicker, bicker, bicker. Hey, Frank Molina is on YouTube. What's up, my friend? What are you doing on Indespondence Day, as I sometimes call it? Okay, Fern is adding in here that mushrooms. Oh, there's a crisis in the mushroom industry. Okay, labor shortages. See, how about that? Right. Well, we should have a real simple and streamlined um, expat program for expat Mexicans and um, El Salvadorans and Guatemalans, Hondurans, whoever's coming in, Panamanians. That's who's coming in to pick our vegetables largely, right? Central Americans, and we should streamline it. So that's a whole other discussion. But yeah, both on the left and the right, you get a lot of crazy stupidity that prevents doing things sensibly. Um, okay, so back to some food pictures. Let's see if there's any. Yeah, hit me with any questions or comments. 18 is it 18 people watching? Okay, 18 likes and oh, that's cool. A few of you checking it out. Thank you for checking it out on this crazy and busy day. Well, maybe not busy day. Most people are chilling, right? Let's go through these pictures. So many pictures. Just want to make sure I get to as many as I can. Gonna stay on about 90 minutes here, folks. So maybe another half hour or so. Okay, here we go. Here's the next bank of what was that? Oh, that was delicious. Okay, so I want to go. Excuse me as I cough in your ear. So it's number 2930 up to okay, great. So these are just a few more photos, and I really took so, so many on this tour. Um, we just had some really good food, folks. Let me tell you, it was a good food tour. Great music tour, of course, too. Um, okay, so jumping back to some food, let's take a look at what we got. Wow, this was a delicious meal. What the hell was this? Um, this is so cool because I haven't seen this stuff since I ate it. So since I sat down, um, I don't. This is. I'm gonna. Oh, this was France, south of France. Okay, and everything vegan. You know, the French are amazing because they again have a cliche that everything has cheese. You know, everything is rich. It's in cream. That's kind of the American usual mistaken snapshot of another culture. And yes, certainly the French use a fair amount of cream. There's no changing that. Of course they do. They're experts and they use very, very fine, high quality dairy. To their credit, you know, a lot of American dairy products are even not available in France because they don't pass muster. So the French are, of course, different creams and bechamel sauces and you know the whole thing of those rich runny cheeses and cheeses like Roquefort and you know uh, blue cheeses and camembert and all those. Camembert might be English with a French name. I forget. Someone tell me on that. But you can get it in France. But all those types of things, right? They definitely do have that. But this notion that they just cook everything in cream and it's nonsense. Like the Germans, their neighbors, the French have a hugely rich vegetable cuisine. You know, so courgettes, which are zucchinis, many different types of zucchinis and squashes, many amazing things with lentils. They like these tiny little lentils, kind of like the Italian lentils. Haricot vert, you know, green beans. They have all these dishes with peas and other plant protein that goes back centuries. Lots of greens, lots of, you know, mustard greens, spinach, you know, radicchio, and what's the other one I'm forgetting? There's another green that the French love. But things like kale and chard and all these things, they just use those almost daily. You just see them in somewhere in the meal, somewhere during the day is green stuff. So you have a bunch of characteristics, a lot of root vegetables, a lot of French potato, and you know other a variety of potatoes, I should say, and other root vegetables and sweet potatoes and hard squashes. You know, a lot of mushrooms in their cuisine, and of course truffles, and so they just have a lot of vegetables. And then in the modern era, integrating things like tofu and wheat gluten and soy alternatives to beef and things like that, they've just folded it right in. So I love when we're in France, you get some incredible food. On the left there, they had put together a little vegan plate with like vegan cold cuts and vegan cheese for us. There's a couple vegans, really two vegans and one pescatarian in the band, and then there's a pescatarian or two spread around in the crew. You know, a couple people who just eat mostly vegetarian, but they will have some dairy, will have some fish. But they every day if they're this kind of stuff is there, they're happy to have it because they're you know looking for meat alternatives. So everything on that left plate, as much as it's like I wanted to get a picture of this because it's such an you know looks like it's animal flesh, right? And again, Not my favorite thing. And in fact, I'm a little freaked out. It's something that is seeking to really look like capicola or some sort of salami or something like that. On the one hand, I'm amazed at the artisanship of using whatever coconut fat and cashew fat and wheat gluten and you know peas and pea protein and sunflower seeds to kind of get texture. That's what's interesting about food. It's just chemistry. And people who lose their shit about this uh, fascinate me because humans have always taken things and tried to form them into other things in the meat world and in the vegetable world. Um, and humans around the world, it's kind of a beautiful thing that the things, the places that squashes and avocados and mangoes and bananas and these kind of, you know, pliable foods that will soak up other flavors and that can take on different shapes and that can be baked and boiled and steamed and change textures. I really love the chemistry behind global cuisine because humans have always needed to generate textures. So I've talked about it on this show before. The um, I always forget her name. Fawet. Um, oh boy, I'm gonna garble her name. Um, it's that show? Salt, acid, heat. Salt, fat, acid, heat. Is that what it's called? Yeah. And that's a wonderful show. I've only seen like one episode of it. I need to watch more of it. But it's this really wonderful woman who's a chef and a creative. Samin Nosrat is her name, and the show is Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. And what's great about it is it just really reminds you that you are an amateur chemist in the kitchen. You are using heat, using variety of heat, using steam, direct fire. Sometimes you put like to make baba ganoush or things, you put the eggplant right in the flame, and there's other things you put in the flame, animal or not, or vegetable. Um, but she talks about how it's basically salt, fat, some sort of acid, some sort of heat, and that's what we are doing to various foods. And so humans have made different things through the years. So I think it's great that we're in this era where there's this blow up, this renaissance of cheeses, for instance, that are cashew based, coconut based, almond based, um, oat milk based, you know, all kinds of things with cultures in them sometimes, with blue cheese cultures, which is just a bacterium, you know. And no one could be expected to do an amazing job like the French. And so you can see those little soft cheeses that are on the plate. Those were amazing. And then there's some kind of avocado. It's like a guacamole. And I forget what that's like a creamy spinach stuff on the bottom with tofu. And then those kind of plant-based cold cuts. On the right, a big pile of shishito peppers. You know, I love those. Some sort of tofu salad, some lettuce greens, something with beets on the top left, and then like a curry, like a green pea curry, and some falafel. So this was a great meal. They had all kinds of stuff, as you could see, all around the map. The French also, some colonizing bastards, and they brought back a lot of those foods from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from Japan, from various parts of Africa and the Caribbean and South America. Um, again, at least they'll sit and talk about it and put it in their museums and say, yeah, we have done many horrible things. Yes. That's a terrible French accent. Sorry. Anyway, this was, I think the other one was dinner. This is lunch. Look at that beautiful green salad. And again, the French grow all these different types of leaves and greens, different types of spinaches and baby kale and uh, uh, arugula, which they call rocket and rucola in Europe. Wow, love the salads over there. And then it was obviously some baked beans, some Indian dal type of peas. I think there's some stuff there with cooked peppers and zucchini and some potatoes. A beautiful food picture, actually, if I do say so myself. I don't usually do such a good job, but that's pretty good. I even got that little 90 $9 splash of olive oil on the plate that really raises the value. Um, what else? I think there's one more. Oh, that was that same one. And then we close with I don't show enough pictures of this. Just good raw food, and I try to start my day anywhere, but especially on tour. This is a perfect day for me. Like some little juice, some fresh fruit, some espresso, or a cup of coffee. Wow, ready to rock. And I just love good fresh fruit. Sometimes I love some protein for breakfast, but try to stay light until 11 or 12, and the lunches are always incredible. But really, really great fruit. We were in Europe in spring, and so all these different fruit. Now, of course, other than the oranges and the watermelon grows there too, but the pineapple's coming from like North Africa or even further, Turkey. A lot of stuff comes out of Turkey. People don't realize Turkey's got an incredible variety of climates, including, you know, pretty damn hot. So a lot of citrus and a lot of tropical things come from Turkey into Europe. So want to remind people this is plant-based vegan food. So you should increase this if this is not on your plate on a daily basis, really. But if you feel like you don't eat enough of what we're looking at there, fresh, amazing, live, enzymatically rich fruit, wow, get that going. Okay, let's jump back. Frank says, vegan gabagool. You don't say. Yeah, did that look like a little gabagool? You're right. Though, in Italy, we got some of those kind of alternative cold cuts and things like that. They weren't really good. The Italian ones, I can't remember any. Maybe I had one that was good. I would try a bit because they went to such trouble to bring all these vegan things, whether it was desserts or cookies or those kind of things. And I always thought, well, let's have some respect and just try out what they brought. And yeah, there were some pretty bad versions of some of that stuff, kind of rubbery, kind of. So some of those companies are where some of the American companies were in the late 80s, let's say, where it was hit and miss. There was some good stuff, even in the 80s, but there was some stuff that was not good at all. Benny Rodriguez, how are you, my friend? Tra! I need some echo for you. Tra! Tra! That's from my buddy Ben Rodriguez. Let's see, since it's been a while, I'm going to hook him up with Tra! Tra! Benny Rodriguez, mi hermano, ¿cómo está? Practicar mi español en España. Tra! 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 Benny. Rodriguez. All right. I'm back in town. And no, we always do a little bit of a show for Benny there. Miss you, bro. Hopefully see you later this year. I'll actually be up that way. Coming back with Matheny. So try to come out. I think the closest to you is maybe Jersey. September something in Jersey. So no New York right now, but soon. Okay, cool. So we're going back to some pictures, sharing some stories here. Anyone have some questions? We'll talk a little bit about the tour. I'm also going to do some future streams just about the music. I've got a performance that I'm going to drop in and do some electronic music. Is this on? Is this thing on? I don't even know how to get the music in here anymore. Let's see. Is it this button? It works. Okay, haven't set that stuff up, but it works. It's got a little hum going on. I gotta fix that. But so I'm gonna be doing some more streams back in town, back on tour with Pat Metheny in early August. Um, so in the meanwhile, I'll be here. I'll do these. Um, I'm gonna close with just some stuff about right now and some grilling. Did some grilling for the first time in years, folks. For for this season. I also want to put the I'll put it in here. Salt, fat, acid, heat.com. Again, this is this really cool woman, Samin Nosrat. There's the link in the chat. Saltfatacidheat.com. Just cool to take a look at. It's a series. I think it was on might have been on Amazon. I can't remember, or Netflix or something. Couple, maybe one season, and a lot of flesh, a lot of dead animals that she cooks. She's of Middle Eastern descent, so there's a lot of really great vegetarian things she gets into. But it's really about the message of the show, which is that if you like to cook, you like to create recipes, it's helpful to pull back the focus and kind of realize, you know what, I'm doing amateur chemistry here. I'm changing the state of matter. I am changing something by applying steam or hot oil um, or salting it and leaving it overnight. That changes it, right? You salt some sliced eggplant and just put that just with salt, damp eggplant, just rinse it so the salt kind of sticks to it, and then you just put that in a Pyrex or something overnight. Wow, you transform the texture of that eggplant. We know marinating some tempeh or tofu or leafy greens or something in tamari and garlic and ginger. The next day it's different, right? Because the acidity of maybe there's some lemon juice or vinegar or something that's got acidity to it. We know that you change things, and what you're doing is chemistry. You're adding salt, you're adding fat, you're adding acid, and you're adding heat. And actually, you almost would say temperature, because freezing stuff changes the texture, right? You freeze all kinds of different foods, and when it defrosts, it's kind of a different thing. So I love her idea of the show, because it really reminds you that you've got these elements to apply to cooking, and this is useful if you're trying to expand your palate and cooking different things. Robbie Mangano, what's up, my brother? Robbie Mangano is here, or he was 3 minutes ago. Good to see you, bro. I just heard great things about you. Well, I always hear great things about you, but I just heard great things about you at the Ed Palermo show. So I'm sure you went and tore shit up. And I was just thinking about you because I came this close to going to see Wilco and meeting your buddy Nels Klein, who I've met a couple of times, but not like extensive. I had a good long conversation once after a show, just as a fanboy, asking him questions, and I've met him at a festival otherwise. But I almost went, and we were going to be hanging out backstage. This was in Valencia, Spain, and then plans changed, and we didn't go to the show, the Wilco show. But I thought of you because I was going to drop your name as soon as I met Nels again. And said, "Hey, man, we met a couple times, which you probably forget, but you know, I'm dear friends with your boy Robbie Mangano, so I was going to use you to, kind of slime my way backstage, but it didn't happen. So all right, well, I put that up there: salt, fat, acid, and heat. I'm going to finish up here with just a little chat about. Let me come out of this album. I got these albums. I did an album called Matheny Tour Food, which is this massive database of stuff. It's pretty cool. All right, let's see. Just gonna close with a couple cool pictures here. What do we got? Yeah, let's just talk about. We're just talking about food. That's what we do on this little venture, and hopefully today you had some good food, and hopefully if you're trying to eat more um, plant based, hopefully you had an easy time um, with it on this holiday because yeah, it's a big barbecuing holiday, but very easy to do that without flesh, especially today, right? I mean, everywhere you go, when you got McDonald's and Burger King and these places offering, you know, all kinds of chicken alternatives and beef alternatives and stuff, it's really cool. All right, let me make sure I've got. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't have all the pictures I wanted, but that's okay. We're gonna wrap up, and so we start out segueing from Spain again. I tell you though, don't grilled vegetables just look mouth-watering? Look at that red onion, some mushroom. Yeah, but they put some shrimp, and the whole thing smelled kind of fishy. So that's Spain for you. The other Spain story, I ordered. I'm just jump back to camera for a minute. I ordered. This is the next day or so. We were in Spain for like 7 days, and no, it was a few days later. And I ordered. We were eating in a little restaurant that the promoter was feeding us at lunch and dinner. So it was right in the venue, downstairs, next door, big complex. Sat down, lots of pork, lots of that's the deal there. Lots of seafood, chicken, tuna. Oh, vegano in Spanish. Vegano hamburguesa. Hamburguesa, it had some, it said what it was from peas and vegetables and stuff. 100% vegan. Great. I'll be having that. And then I asked the waitress, I said, the salad didn't say vegan. And that's a funny thing. Sometimes on menus, you'll see this. It'll say this item's vegan and that soup's vegan. But then there's like olives and it doesn't say vegan. You're like, what's up? Or the bread doesn't say vegan, right? Or the baked potato. And that's always funny to me because sometimes you ask and they're like, well, yeah, there's no animal in it. I'm like, well, why didn't you mark it vegan? Because by marking some stuff vegan and some stuff not, you create this, you know, oh, then maybe that one's not. So anyway, notwithstanding that, I said to her, is this salad vegan? Because it just said salad, vegetables, greens, lettuce, tomato and onion or something. It said, and she said, yes, vegan. Oh, great. I'll have the salad and the vegan burger. Done. Easy. We're having some coffee, whatever. Food arrives. Cool. Okay. Oh, nice. These vegan burger, really nice and fresh. A few people got it. People eating vegetarian. And I'm digging into my salad. Oh yeah, nice crisp, crunchy salad. And I bite into an olive, and right away I'm like, oh man, I knew it. Weird, salty kind of a texture. And I'm thinking, what the hell was that? Right away I was like, freaking Spain, never fails. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, what was that taste? I just had the tiniest bit. Imagine how much is stuffed in an olive. And I bit like half of it or something. So it's just a little bit, and it was anchovy. So I'm going like, man, these people they're crazy. So I call the waitress over, or call the waiter over, another wait staff. I say, hey, can you find out for me, is there something in these olives? And uh, sure enough, he comes back. He's like, yeah, anchovies. I'm like, ah, really, guys? I mean, who does that? Who does that? I mean, let's think about that. Because anchovies, and this is what I'm saying about ham. This is why Spain is so crazy. This is beyond just, I don't eat flesh and this person might. Ham, that's what they put in everything. So a lot of people don't eat ham. I know dozens of people that eat chicken and fish, maybe beef once in a blue moon. Very good friend of mine I was talking to today. He eats really just fish, little chicken, and a couple times a year beef. He's doesn't touch ham. In Spain, you're gonna touch ham. It's everywhere. So that's the funny thing, that it's really this interesting country for a lot of people. Likewise, anchovies, because anchovies, even to fish eaters, as I said to someone that day, anchovies are the Jägermeister of fish, right? If you either know what I mean or you don't. Just like Jaeger, even to people who love getting drinks, Jägermeister is kind of the weird, like, a lot of people hate it. Likewise, anchovies, right? You can't do anything more controversial, I think, than ordering anchovies on a pizza and not telling the rest of the people, right, at the party. It's right up there with pineapple or something, or even more. But so to put anchovies in an olive, which I know there's stuffed olives of all types, but to take that particular olive and have that be in a salad without calling it some kind of anchovy salad, just it's just a different way of thinking Spain. I mean, I got so many other stories, but that's just one more. Um, but yep, yep. So okay, so there they are with some shrimp in the grilled vegetables. So moving on, I'm going to talk about some plant-based um, beverages, some adult beverages that I'm enjoying. I love a good mezcal, and of course, mezcal is one of the three main things um, that the humans get um, from the same plant, actually, right? Can you name the other two? Um, well, I'll just tell you. Agave, which is the plant. You see the picture of the plant in the middle there. Agave syrup, which is now a very popular sweetener, and a good sweetener, a good low glycemic kind of a sweetener, very natural, very low process sort of thing. And you see that in natural food stores. So agave, the sweetener, tequila, and also mezcal, which I really just recently fell in love with being in Mexico a few years ago on tour. I'd had mezcal once, twice, but it was bad, cheap mezcal. And just like tequila, you really want to get the good stuff. So this is some pretty good mezcal. I think I'll mix a cocktail right after this. So nice plant-based treat. And then the other, okay, let's jump into some food. So got my first grill in decades. I keep wanting to buy a grill every year and don't get around to it. So this is like the second day of grilling. What do we have there? Some marinated tempeh. Tempeh is amazing on the grill. You know I'm a tempeh evangelist here. Talk about it all the time. One of the most incredible foods on earth, I'm going to say. It's Indonesian, and it's an Indonesian staple, and it's soy, and you can see the little beans right in it. It's very low processed soy, very low tech. All you need is soybeans, some steam, and a container, and some tempeh culture. And you make this much like cheese or miso or wine or sauerkraut or kimchi and any number of fermented foods around the world. Very, very good for you because it's got the culture happening. It's got some real digestive capacity because it's kind of breaking down a food that may have some difficult to break down fibers and things like that. And it's just delicious, and it's really high protein. You're looking at one solid chunk of tempeh, Light Life brand here. That's about 32 to 35 grams of protein right there, folks. The tempeh, and to some of you it might look like fish or something like that, but yeah, that's just a soybean product called tempeh. Highly recommend you checking out. It's delicious and it takes up whatever you marinate or soak it in, or it's just a superb food. But I love it. It's inexpensive, great source of protein. So grilled tempeh for the first time, maybe in my life, because back when I had a little charcoal grill, we didn't. I don't know if I did tempeh. Then we had just a mix of vegetables, and you can see the tempeh right next to the scallion. There is gotten kind of the classic grill burns on it, and it's nicely cooked and browned. Then we have some Amy's black bean burgers there on the grill, and some tomatoes and scallions and jalapenos. This was the other plant-based adult beverage. I just had this. I had sent these pictures to a friend and a friend that's visiting in Iceland, and I just saw them a minute ago. I said, hey, this fits on the show. It's plant based. Wanted to point this out too, as I'm going to talk a lot about grilling in the next little season, and talking about grilling plant-based, and this is part of the cleanup. This is the pan underneath the grill. So you've got like some of the corn husk and some little bits of soy that fell through, some of the olive oil that was in the marinade dripped out, as you do. Maybe bits of onion that burnt up. My point is, and what's beautiful about a plant-based grill is that you have very, very little waste. I mean, the carbon footprint is pretty much the propane, the little bit of propane you use, because um, and of course the production of all of the vegetables, that goes without saying. But compared to other carbon footprint, pretty good way to kick that forward. So this is the waste. This is the garbage. This is 2 days of grilling and the little bits and pieces that fell through. And I composted it all. We compost all of our plant waste, all of our seeds and peels and parts, uneaten cores, apple cores and pear parts and the outside of a pineapple, whatever it is, we compost it all. Been doing that for 30 plus years. And so it's cool. That's another cool thing about a plant-based grill, is that you're just generating plant waste. This is something I talk about all the time on this show. Another wonderful high protein food made from mung beans. This is just egg. You've heard me talk about it. It's revolutionary. In China, they're using this. There's a fast food chain, 500 locations, which isn't that many in China, I guess, but they're all using this just egg product because it lets you do a scrambled egg texture or frittata or anything like that. What is it? It's a natural product made of mostly mung beans. It's mung bean protein, and then I think there's some oil and stuff like that in it. But really great stuff. Comes liquid, looks like liquid, like liquefied eggs, like whipped eggs, and you just pour it in the pan like you would a couple eggs that you whipped. So you can do anything with it. And this is something I whipped up with just a little omelet with leftover grilled vegetables. So you see some onion in there and some jalapeno or whatever. So just a couple of ideas. One more look here at just kind of a lonely grill. This picture is before really filled in with some other bigger pieces of some burgers and things like that, and some more tomato. But yeah, just grilling some vegetables, and very much relearning the whole thing. But psyched about having another quick, healthy way to prepare plant-based foods. Okay, over on YouTube, The Edible Man. Good to see you, my friends. Oh, it's Derek. You're in jail. You're in Facebook jail. Oh man. Derek says, "Yeah, you're not celebrating Independence Day. You don't like what's happening in our nation. It doesn't feel like we're really free anymore." Hey, man, long discussion to be had there. Our freedom has been a mixed bag for quite some time. Yes. So that's all we'll say about that right now. Okay, great. You got some questions. Yeah, let's wrap up with some cool questions from you all, because you always have great questions. Robbie, no, tempeh is no gluten, man. Tempeh is amazing. It's soybeans. It's one of the simplest foods to make too. And you can learn how to make it. If you go on YouTube and punch in "make tempeh," you can do it with just a pound of soybeans, and you need to get the culture, but you could buy that. But yeah, it's gluten free. There are versions with grains in them, actually, and so you do have a version that may have some gluten in it, and if it's marinated in, say, soy sauce or something, then it might have some gluten. But your straight up classic plain light life tempeh or smaller brands is just soy. Here it is, 18 grams of protein per serving, and that's like half of a block. So 36 grams of protein for about $4, $3.79 to $4.19. That's an incredible bargain and incredible value for plant-based food. Here's what tempeh looks like in the picture. So there's a little promo video from Light Life. And tempeh, what's unique about it too, it's not setting out to be like a replacement for beef, replacement for chicken. It's its own thing. Like I said, ancient Indonesian food. It's a staple in Indonesia. You go there and you get it in oh, look at that. I didn't know Light Life owned field roast. But you get it in on the street trucks, street carts, food carts. They do it with peanut sauce, with curry. They do it roasted, broiled, braised, all kinds of ways. And so yeah, check out tempeh if you've never had it. And yeah, you can just cut it into chunks like that, saute it. Great on the grill, great in chili or something like that. Oh, I haven't checked in with Light Life in ages. Did not know that they merged or bought Field Roast, which is exciting. Field Roast is one of these companies that does. Now this is gluten because they use wheat gluten to do these plant-based alternatives to meats and the meat proteins. Um, Great company, Field Roast. And again, I know there's some people going, why would you have a sausage made of? Because some people like sausages and don't want to eat flesh. How is this hard? Those are the two things that get combined. Someone that likes sausage, but they don't like murdered pigs and pig flesh. They want that texture. They want that. And what's funny is we do that throughout society, and no one has a shit fit. I mean, there's virgin cocktails. Like, do you walk up to someone drinking a non-alcoholic Heineken and say, "What's your problem? Why would you want the taste of beer and not the alcohol? You're an idiot." I mean, so that kind of energy is just bizarre to me. And there's all kinds of things. There's turkey sausage that's not, pork sausages that make it, turkey Vienna sausages. There's any number of things. I mean, I don't have to go on that. The example is probably pretty clear to you. But as I said, a lot more carnivores than you would realize are picking up on these products because we've got an aging demographic of open-minded people. So you have people in their 50s and 60s who kind of grew up now in a little more of an open culinary society, so that being 55, being 60, 65, and being told by your doctor, you have drastically got to bring your cholesterol down. What's happening, and there's, again, tons of articles about this, because when you study the market share, who's going into McDonald's, who's going into Chipotle, who is ordering some of these things, a lot of it's a lot of older people than you might think. It's the teens who are going vegan in incredible numbers, but it's a lot of people my age and older who are literally being told, you've got to bring down your saturated fat, you got to bring down your cholesterol. Now, doesn't mean you sit there and eat these foods 4 times a day. That's not what I'm saying. There's always someone who hears that because they feel like hearing that. It's not what I'm saying. But as a treat, as a thing on the weekend, you want to have a dish that you grew up with that's got chorizo in it or stuffed peppers or something. These are ways that people are finding that they can have that virtually identical mouthfeel and texture and taste and flavor, and and often more protein, certainly as much. But so this is a real revolution, and you see these foods showing up on mainstream in mainstream outlets like Tim Hortons in Canada or Wendy's and McDonald's and Burger King. You're seeing Subway just added another vegetarian patty to their, Domino's Pizza. Some of these big pizzerias are now in certain regions offering the plant-based pepperoni. So yeah, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying that yeah, a lot of people are figuring out this market. Edible Man says he loves tempeh. Yeah, tempeh's, gosh, love it so much. All right, I'm going to close out with a couple questions here, and then we're out of here. Salamanca, ham. What do we got? Oh, you all weighed in on a lot of stuff here. Oh my God. Kevin Crone, welcome back. Was actually considering eventually move to Spain. Veganism, slim pickings. So here's the thing, Kevin. if you're in anywhere in Spain, a major city, and I did this a number of times, and you just Google vegetarian restaurant, vegan restaurant, boom, you got six of them, you got eight of them, and then so it's well known. But if you go to your average, and the Spanish love to just sit on the sidewalk, have a few drinks, and eat, and all the little places all have kind of the same six things. A couple different ham dishes, paella in certain parts of the country, very prevalent in Valencia and near the water. They almost always have patatas bravas, brave potatoes. I think it stands for. They call it translates as, and that's like potatoes with like this cream sauce that you dip into it. They all have ensalada russica, with Russian salad. You find it everywhere, like salad with a Russian dressing. So you kind of see these things at bars, at pubs, these kind of six basic things, none of which are vegan. If you're lucky, they'll bring you the potatoes without the sauce, and you see hummus a lot, stuff like that. So in your mainstream Spanish places, yeah, you got to really, go through a minefield. Again, though, if you just look for vegetarian food, vegan food, Indian food, yeah, it's all there. So, and they have really, really great fresh produce. So we've talked about, do you move to Spain? Really easy to survive there. Um, um, so that's my answer. And Kevin, you could drop me a line. Did a lot of research on Spain, various cities, things like that. Joachim Rostel, how are you, my friend? Yes, the food was great in Spain, but you had to really pick and choose to find meatless food. Bassam is saying, "Welcome back to the greatest country in the world." I know. At what? Spain, baby. Robbie Mangano, you were there. I remember a bummer of an afternoon for you, my friend. It's funny things you remember. We were in San Sebastian with Project Object, and it wasn't your fault. I remember this. I remember some local crew guy said, "Yeah, you can plug in here," and you plugged in and you blew up something. I forget what it was, but right, some kind of power supply blew up on your pedal board. But I remember standing there, and I remember the guy going, "You were asking, hey, is this going to work for my power that I have?" And that's always painful in Europe when you see that, that puff of smoke. I've been there. Um, Salamanca ham, yes. Also, good to see you, man. Hibachi grills are more than enough for one. Yeah, two people and a great use of heat. Yeah, you got it, my friend. Great to be uh, grilling again. Tempe, yeah. Thanks for asking, Robbie. And we just talked about that. Yeah, right, Bassam. That's a deep Jay Giles reference there. No anchovies, please. Uh, so and then yes, soy, yeah. So yes, as I was saying before, tempeh is usually traditionally just soy with the culture. Now there's modern versions of tempeh. As I said, also Light Life has one called a 3 grain tempeh, I think, and that might be gluten free. I can't remember, but it's got like millet, maybe rice, and one other grain in there, buckwheat or something like that. So that's a nice one. And then there's tempeh made of there's something called hempe, which we love. Hempe is actually a local company that does a tempeh with hemp seeds instead. Awesome. And you find that up your way in Whole Foods, I would imagine. But one of the many fantastic local companies right here in Asheville. Here it is. We love it. It's gluten free, protein rich, vegan and vegetarian. Look at that. Good stuff. That raspberry habanero, man, that's pretty spicy, I must say. So they have these marinated versions, the miso ginger. Look at the specs on that. So you have that one little block of tofu there, 8 ounces, just 8 ounces, just 8 ounces, going to give you 36 grams of protein, 24 carbs. Some would say the sodium's a little high. That's 1100 sodium and change. I think it's fine. That's 25% the day's serving in one serving. If you ate this whole block, you'd have half the day's sodium. Sodium is a long discussion though, because uh, we tend to see sodium and freak out. You need sodium, cellular activity, your nerves firing needs a host of minerals, not just sodium. And really, the thing you should look at, in fact, if you're even worrying about sodium, is what's your sodium potassium ratio? That's actually much more important. And to zoom in on, I'm not saying if your doctor said look out for sodium, I'm not saying your doctor is wrong. What I'm saying is frame that, put it in perspective. Your doctor should be saying, hey, how's your potassium also? Because in America, we have some chronic mineral issues around those two minerals. Yes, we eat way too much sodium, way too little potassium. So we have this real imbalance. And so the kind of cellular fluid exchange, just as a basic chemical reaction that involves those minerals, is all fucked up. So we get bloating and we get high blood pressure and we get all kinds of things. Like, you know, the certain uh, prescriptions people take where they end up getting bloated ankles and bloating. A lot of that has to do with then throwing off your sodium, potassium, and mineral picture. You know, so I'm just saying, study that. Get. We live in a beautiful time where you can go study this stuff. It's not going to make you a nutritionist. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. I have a degree in computer science, but I'm a pretty smart guy that has been in this industry for over 15 years, talking to doctors, talking to homeopaths, talking to naturopaths, chiropractors, internists, neurologists, dietitians, people across the spectrum on these topics. And one thing I do always want to impart to people is use your brain. Go to Wikipedia, look up sodium, learn what it is, learn about elements, learn about, fluid exchange in your cells, which is kind of, one of the most important activities happening in the many activities happening in your body. Point being, you go to the Japanese, for instance, who eat a way high sodium diet compared to Americans. But guess what? They're eating a massively high potassium diet. Okay? They're eating way more vegetables and greens and things like squashes and root vegetables and things with, more potassium in them. And they're eating a way better fat profile with the various seafood and raw fish and better seed oils and things like that. So sometimes, nutrition labels, there should be a class just on nutrition labels and get people away from the paranoia. You need calories. So when you see a calorie number, some people run for the hills. No, eat calories, eat quality calories. So this is one of the best labels you could read, folks, because look at those ingredients, all incredible, really good natural plant-based ingredients, high protein, moderate carbs, no cholesterol. I'd be more worried about your cholesterol number that you're eating every day, because you don't need to eat any cholesterol ever. Your body will make all the cholesterol it needs, and it does need cholesterol. Cholesterol is a very important, one of the most important lipids, one of the most important elements of protecting our brains and our nervous system. Cholesterol is throughout the body. The protective sheaths around our nerves, and as I said, your brain and your eyes would not be optimal without cholesterol. But your body, your liver will make all the cholesterol it ever needs. So reading these labels is always interesting, because you can think a little bit about how many things we just get, these words like fat, carbs, get thrown at us, and we don't break it down. But anyway, that's it on hempe, which is incredible stuff, as is generally tempeh. So thanks for asking about that. Fern Brodkin says, compost service that, oh yeah, brings a home pickup. Yeah, if you don't have a place to compost in your home, and they make these drums that are a little smaller than your garbage can, where you can just do it in a little drum, and you turn the drum. It usually can spin around, and you make your soil. I'm an advocate of that doing something green, like making compost, making soil, and then putting it in a car and driving it somewhere in a plastic bag kind of defeats part of the purpose. But if you have to, you have to. You live in an apartment, you live in the city, I get it. But I would find some way to. But if you're in an apartment, then yeah, I get it. There's smell, there's uh, you know, regulations might happen in your apartment. So I'm all for a home pickup if you absolutely have to. Robbie, great question. What's the difference between tofu and tempeh? Tofu, I should do a show just on this, but I'm gonna jot that down because a soy products show I think would be cool, and I would get some people on from maybe this tempeh company. But the real quick thing is they're both soybean products. They're both gluten-free, protein-based kind of soy products. They're both vegan and vegetarian products. They both fit in macrobiotics. They fit in all kinds of diets. Um, the difference is tofu is incredibly processed versus tempeh. I've made tofu. I've never made tempeh. Tofu is very time consuming. You have to boil the beans and steam the beans and strain the beans and press the beans and the cheesecloth, and then you form it and then you steam it again and you make the cubes and you cool it and then it's a lot of processing. I like tofu. It depends how it's done, but it's a little more difficult to work with. To have it soak up flavors. Maybe when you mash it and cube it up, it's a little bit better, but it doesn't soak up like ginger and oils and things like that as well as tempeh does. It's pretty good. And again, getting back to our friend salt, acid, um, fat, and heat, you can do things with tofu. Like one quick tip for tofu: if you like tofu, get a block of tofu, take it out of the packet, squeeze most of the water out, just squeeze it out, and freeze it. Freeze the whole block. Let it defrost, and then when it's defrost, you'll see it looks different. It's got like almost a Swiss cheese thing happening, these big holes. Then you chop that tofu up, marinate it in something, soy sauce, soy and ginger, olive oil and vinegar, sea salt, and some black pepper, whatever you like. But by freezing it, you change the texture, and that tofu suddenly soaks up a whole different thing. So tofu is wonderful, and especially the Chinese who were doing tofu thousands of years ago, really, I think, are the experts in all the different ways and textures you can make tofu. That said, tempeh is like the no-brainer food because you chop it up, throw it in a pan with some olive oil and an onion that's been sauteing, and it's brilliant, just like that. Put it on a grill, put some barbecue sauce on it, amazing. So, um, those are the main differences. And tempeh also is much more protein than tofu. I forget tofu, 8 ounces might be like 15 or 20 grams of protein, whereas tempeh is like 32, 36. So and much more digestible. Thank you. Good, great question. Kevin says, "You want your mind blown by the meat substitutes? Try the Gardein alternate chicken." Yeah, I've had some of the Gardein stuff. It's ridiculous. I know. Now, Gardein is a guy named Yves Pauvin. He's a French Canadian, and he had a company called Yves in the 80s. If you've been eating plant-based for a while, you might remember Yves, Kevin. Yves is the guy who now works at Gardein. And if you remember, Yves was brilliant in the 80s with like the first line of like spot on pepperoni and burgers and things like that. They were scary. That was like my first. I was working in a natural food store, George Street Co-op in New Brunswick, and that was my first like new product coming in this Monday on the truck. You hear that because I was involved in the ordering and produce, and new things were fun. And I remember, yeah, this is Yves stuff. We're gonna try it, and that was that was the first product I remember. This would have been about 1992, 3, something like that. I remember. No, man, this is too real. This is a burger. Wait a minute. You read the package like 5 times. You're like, oh my God, are you sure? I mean, I remember that. And that's where you go into that philosophical, like, I don't really, it, it's enjoyable on some level, but what am I eating? And you have to work out this kind of, like, where does this sit? Um, and so, like I said, I like things like that occasionally. That's fine, but it's not like a staple. But Eves is the guy. He was known as the guy who really, really understood texture and mouth feel and how to the right balance of fat and the texture and the chewiness and what you're going for to do these meat substitutes. And so he's the Gardein guy now. Abbott pea protein chorizo, I'm sure, yeah, that it's very easy to do now, especially basically you have 3D printing now where you have peas and carrots and garlic and spices and stuff in a big glop and you print something the shape of a sausage. It's not a big deal. I got news for you. That's how they're making the meat versions too. So if you're going to eat something that's shaped like a disc and is tasty and garlicky and spicy, we get to that next level. If it's going to taste and smell and look and feel exactly the same, and that's what countless meat eaters say when they eat some of these things. Some of them are not. Some of them are made to still look like there's peas or black beans or kale in them. There's all kinds of burgers. There's a new one made of kelp that's very popular. But the ones that are made to be simulacrums, more and more and more, you can literally fool someone. So then the question becomes environmental, and you say if it's exactly the same umami experience, I'm sitting with my family, we're having a beer, everyone's laughing, it's this delicious thing. It's meatballs and spaghetti, or it's a curry, but the little chunks of chicken are actually made from wheat gluten or soy or pea protein or hemp protein or sunflower seed protein. The next question becomes what do you want to do for the environment and for cruelty? I mean, you're literally not experiencing anything different. And then you can get into a whole Matrix movie discussion of what is physical experience? What are we experiencing in consensus reality? What are the taste senses and your senses in general experiencing? How much of it is? It gets into a whole bunch of stuff, and we'd be talking about ayahuasca in just a minute. But the point being, if you have that experience and getting better nutrients, we're now at the point. These foods, obviously, you look at substitute meats and sausages and things in say the 60s and 70s, they were junk. Worthington in a can, and the Seventh-day Adventists had their own brand that might have been that. And these things had all kinds of crap in them, all kinds of chemicals and artificial stuff. Now we've evolved to where they are made with natural things, natural mushrooms and pea protein and hemp protein, cashew fat, coconut fat. Um, and so now you have to really ask a different question than when you were 17 and someone gave you a veggie dog. You now have to ask, where do I stand on the environment, on the cruelty, the brutal, insane cruelty to pigs, to these incredibly beautiful, intelligent animals? And if you're going to be able to eat something that's virtually the same, I mean, yes, you're going to find things that are different. I know for some of you, well, you don't need to keep saying that, Andre, but for some people, there's this weird trip about it. And I want people to think about the environmental issue. Many times I've put this article up on the maybe I'll close with that. Put this article up from the New York Times about Brazil and how even the Brazil major meat industry, meat slaughter companies are switching over to wheat and soy and vegetable based meat alternatives because of the environmental issues. They're having so many problems with uh, the Amazon and the rainforest issues that Brazil is going through a vegetarian. I'm going to put it into the chat. Brazil is going through a revolution. And so, if they can do it, if one of the most carnivorous kind of countries can say, you know what, we're changing this in massive numbers, then, it's something to maybe ponder. Okay, I just put it in the chat. So thanks for that question, and thanks, Kevin, for reminding me about that. Robbie, you do remember, right? Your Voodoo Labs thing. Man, I know. I just remember that. That sucked, bro. Real salt, mine faults. Yeah, mine salt. Yeah, salt and these different salts you can get with a lot of high mineral. Is this still happening? Hey, Laura. Yes, I'm live. Let's catch up soon, my friend. I'm back. Activate my anti-aging gene. There you go. Is that because of the grays? I know. Hemp all the way. Um, Red Bank friends pick up on. Okay, so there's a compost pickup. Yeah, everyone should look at compost pickups. Yeah, I've heard of these ones, Kevin, that use enzymes and heat and stuff. That's great. And in a condo, it ought to be the law. We should be we're in such grave environmental problems right now with landfills and with plastic and all kinds of things. We should be it should be mandated. Sorry, I that's what I say. And I was just in some European countries where we saw composting pickups and composting, uh, you know, bins on the street and stuff. Um, I'm going to do a bunch of shows on my experience in Europe about the environment and about what their approach to garbage and to bike lanes and eating lower on the food chain, all kinds of things. Yes, indeed, Laura. Tempeh is amazing, fermented. Eves, there we go. I knew it, Kevin. I knew if you've been doing this for a while. So there you go. Did you know that? I don't know. Did you know that Eves is the Gardein guy? So you can. There's some articles about that too. And you're right. That was old school. The tofu board. Yep, yep. And yeah, you had no idea who was involved in Gardein. Sure, sure. Seth Tibbet, I don't know. Send me a link to that. Oh, is that the Tofurkey guy? Okay. Plants and veggies. That's awesome. Well, thanks, folks. It's been great to be back on the air, talking about some foods. And Laura, let's catch up soon, my friend. And you were not here when we had some food on the screen, so I'll give you a quick. And for anyone else who tuned in late, there is my just egg breakfast that I had with leftover grilled vegetables. There's some grilling that I was doing. Some tomatoes, onions, yellow peppers, scallion, nice charred scallion. Um, and this is just talking about compost and how even the waste of plant-based grilling is some good, healthy stuff that's going to be soil in 2 days. Some plant-based beverages for adults. And then talking about tempeh, marinated tempeh. That was tempeh marinated in a little bit of ginger and garlic and a little oil. Delicious. Grilled it up with some jalapenos and then some Amy's black bean burgers. And then we talked about Spain, where when you order grilled vegetables, you get the little shrimp in the bottom left there because they just cannot do something with just vegetables. They just can't. So I leave you with that cautionary tale if you are to go to Spain. Thank you, Anne, for sticking around for a couple hours. Really appreciate it, y'all. Have a good independence meal and hang out. And like I said, not even going to get into the politics of it other than to say, boy. So, okay, cool. See you next week and also see you on a stream soon. Going to be doing some music soon. And going to be doing a Patreon stream probably tomorrow night. I will post about it here. And Patreon is my other job, by the way. That's where I can, I do performances, I do workshops, I do lessons, I do stuff for people on a certain level about food. I do reports from the road, and I do my live book writing. And so check it out. Check out my Patreon. And I'm about to add a buy me a beer once a month level, which you can just sign up for $3 a month and you get all my updates. You just get the updates, kind of a newsletter that comes up. And for the cost of buying me a beer or a coffee once a month, it's a new way for artists and creatives to support themselves. I feel good about it because it's not begging. It's not just asking you to throw money in my GoFundMe. I'm going to give you something back and give it at different tiers. There's performances as you go up to the, there's a $3 level, there's a $10 level, $20 level. And uh, you get something back. You get my time, my efforts, my workshops. I have interviews with, I do a synth and guitar production workshops where I have guests and people that come on from different companies talking about new products. Um, I have various musicians that come on as guests. So it's just kind of like social media, but in a more private realm and in a way where you're getting paid a little bit for your time. So I do that, and I have the link up there, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that. I've been doing Patreon for over a year, and I think I kind of understand a little bit about how it works. So there we have it. Thank you, Fern. That means a lot that you got information today. I appreciate that, my friend. That's why I do this information, encouraging people to take control, dig for more info, and get some alternatives going. So thank you for being part of it.